Hey there, thanks for sticking around through the whole series on the Squier Classic Vibe Bass 6, all the upgrades, mods, and changes that I've made to it. I just wanted to kind of wrap up. I know it took me a long time to get around to making part 6 here in the series, so thanks for your patience, but actually what inspired me to do it is I'm thinking about converting the Bass 6 to baritone, and I wanted to make sure that I got the sound of it as a bass first. I ended up using it on one song on my upcoming surf adjacent instrumental rock CD, LP, whatever you want to call it, EP. Ultimately, I think it does exactly what I wanted it to do. It was more useful to me during the demo process than actually during the recording. I leaned more towards using my Ernie Ball bass for the keeper recordings, but it was absolutely nice to have access to the Bass 6 for the demo process, where I found it much more useful than a full-size bass. The cost is certainly something that people have asked me a lot about in various discussions online. The bass itself originally cost, I think $459 was the list price. I bought it through Sweetwater. No discounts because it was a new instrument. I had to order it actually ahead of time, and it came in when it came in. It showed up in a box with no case, so I bought a gig bag for it. I got a nice, I can't show it to you, it's out of reach. It's a PRS SE bass gig bag. Fits great. Plenty of padding, plenty of room. I got that used on Reverb, I think for about $50. So that was a pretty good deal. So now we're up to, I'll put the total up in the corner. Math is not my strong suit. Because I was unable to intonate the instrument properly, I got an aftermarket bridge by a company called Stay Trem that is wider than the stock bridge, and that allowed me to properly intonate the instrument. That at the time, their prices have gone up. It was 95 pounds. That was 80 pounds sterling plus 15 for shipping. At the time, that was about $115. It might have been a little bit less, a little bit more. I don't remember the exact exchange rate last year when I started doing this. I checked this morning and I put the link to the Stay Trem product in the description, and they now cost 100 pounds, which is $125 at today's current exchange rate. And I would assume that that is not including shipping. So expect to add another 15 to 20 pounds, i.e., $30 or $40 for shipping. So the cost of getting one of those bridges has gone up quite a bit. The other big modification I made, of course, was to remove the just terrible sounding stock pickups, which, as you saw in one of the previous videos, also turned out to be quite flimsy, as one of them fell apart completely when I took it out. With a simple tug on one of the wires, it just popped right off. So that's not really good craftsmanship there on the part of whoever is building the electronics for these. But I reached out to Fralin Pickups, which is in near the same town that I live in. So I save a little bit on shipping because I just drop by their office and pick up my pickups. I love their pickups, and I have them in several guitars. So that saves me $16. So I paid $345 for the pickup set, which is their Jaguar pickups. And I had them do a stock wind, and then with a reverse wound, reverse polarity bridge pickup to add some hum canceling. Not that there's a lot of hum, but in high noise environments that you might use an instrument like this in, anything with single coils is going to have some amount of hum unless it's specifically wound to be hum canceling. And then of course, just between you and me, that's not truly a single coil pickup anymore, but I digress. At any rate, the folks at Fralin were super happy to custom wind me a set like that. And later on, they subsequently started to offer that exact same set for the Bass 6 because they thought it was a great idea, and I agree. Lindy himself had recently purchased an original Bass 6 from the 1960s. I believe he told me it was a 1964. I got to see it. when I visited their office and had a chat with him, and it's beautiful. It's sunburst, and it's just a wonderful looking instrument. I did take mine by their office so that he could check it out once his pickups were in it, and he kind of dug it. Of course, it doesn't play like his original one. Those pickups, if I didn't say it, were $345 for the set, which is by far the biggest single expense outside of purchasing the instrument, and almost actually doubled the cost of the guitar in the first place. I sanded down the back of the neck myself, which cost me nothing. And I also took it to my favorite guitar tech, a guy called Doug, to put a new nut on it. I know that the spec sheet that you see says bone nut, but it was not a bone nut from the factory. It was plastic. It was some kind of synthetic bone. And if you see that anywhere it says synthetic bone, that means plastic. And it was poorly cut. It bound the strings. Plus, I went up several sizes in strings to get a thicker tone, and also to enhance the ability to intonate the instrument properly. At the same time that my tech was cutting the new nut for it, I also had him do some fretwork. The fretwork on the bass as it came out of the box was substandard at best. I wouldn't quite call it poor, because it was certainly acceptable. You could, and I was able to get the action high enough to play the instrument effectively, but it wasn't well done. It wasn't what I expect from a guitar. Now, was it what I could expect reasonably from a Squier? Yes, it absolutely was. It was exactly what I expect on a $459 instrument that comes out of Indonesia. But that's not acceptable to me as a player, so I needed it to be better. All the ends were sharp, all up and down. There were a bunch of frets that needed leveled. There were several that needed to be properly crowned. And of course, it plays like a dream now. As you'll see in the sound demo that comes in a minute, I play pretty hard, so you'll hear a lot of percussive artifacts. And I didn't do anything special. There's no funky microphones. I used my Peavey Classic 50, which is a fantastic amplifier for guitar. And of course, I'm a guitar player, so I have guitar amps. I don't have a dedicated bass amp. But I know a lot of people, when they do sound demos on YouTube, they add delay and reverb and all this other processing, so you don't really hear what the instrument actually sounds like. You hear what their plugins sound like. The microphone on the iPhone 11 is not perhaps the most sophisticated, but it does give a pretty accurate representation of what things sound like in real life. So that's all I used, and you'll notice it compresses a good bit because of the volume. If you're gonna play something, why play it quietly? You know, have a little fun. I wish that they had come out with the Vintera 2 line. When I bought this, I would not have bought this. I would have bought the Vintera 2, despite it having a 7¼ inch fretboard radius, which I cannot abide. But for a bass, I think it would be a lot more acceptable, because you're really mostly playing single note lines. You're not doing a lot of bending. I don't think it would be as big of an issue. At the time that I got this bass, it was the only thing that was available under $1,500. Japanese made and Mexican made bass sixes that were special runs, were 10, 12, 20 years old, were available starting at around $1,500. Original bass sixes go for 5 figures, and custom shop ones cost $5,000 to $8,000. So this really was the only affordable option. The Vintera 2s, I think, if I remember from the Fender website, are like $1,300 or $1,400, which is a lot for a Mexican-made guitar, but not unreasonable. And from everything that I've heard from the people that have gotten the Vintera 2 Bass 6, they play nicely. They're the expected Mexican-made quality, which is a big step above the Indonesian-made quality Squiers. I know a lot of people rave about the Indonesian-made Squiers. I did not have their positive experience with this instrument. The only other thing I might replace on this is the tuners. The tuners are a little notchy. They're effective, they work, but they're a little notchy. Typically, I left the bar in for the sound check that you'll hear, but I typically don't use it, because even with professionally made nut, excellent fretwork, and the stay trim bridge, the slightest warble on the tremolo system vibrato system, excuse me, and it goes out of tune just a little bit. The more you use it, the less in tune it is. So that, I think, comes down to the poor quality of the tuners. Now, are they acceptable if you don't use the vibrato bar? Yeah, I think so. I think they are. If I decide to put any more money into it, that's where I'll put it. Now, the trip to my tech cost, for the new nut and the fretwork, cost about $200. So I'll add that to the running total up in the corner, and just pretend I added in cha-ching sounds every time I update the cost, and that'll be fun for both of us. So anyway, here comes the sound check now. I hope you enjoy it, and it's been a real journey. If I do end up converting this to a baritone, I'll be back with another discussion and another sound check. But I'm going to say, since it took me so long to go from part 5 to part 6 on this instrument in this series, maybe don't hold your breath on the baritone thing. On, off, on, off. Bass choke off. Fralin, fralin, fralin. Reverse wound, reverse polarity for hum canceling. Using a Peavey Classic 50 through a 212 cabinet. Tone all the way up, volume all the way up. Actually, I'm going to back the tone off just a little bit. Bridge and middle. Off the bridge, turn on the middle. Pickups on, and the bass choke. Bass choke off. Bridge pickup. Now, bridge and middle on. I'm going to switch on the dirty channel. my favorite setting, bridge and middle on together. Take it easy. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. Peace.